Here's an example of a picture taken with Olympus TG3 at some distance, and you can see the problem is that the colors are not very saturated, and it's a little foggy, and the temperature is kind of off. And so I'm going to use Photoshop elements to remove the fog, to correct the color temperature, and adjust the lighting so that's much better. So the first thing I had done previously was I had cropped the picture, and you can see it's a little bit closer now, but you can still see it's still some fog, and it's foggy, and colors just aren't popping the way you see the fish when you're in the water. So the first thing I do is I adjust the levels, and on Windows that's Control L, and you can see the levels tend to be a little bit low. There's no bright pixels in the whole picture, but there's a big difference in the levels for each of the different colors, and this is essentially why the color temperature is off. So the color temperature for green and blue is reasonably correct, but again, those colors aren't saturated. So I'm going to fix the color temperature, the fog, and the levels all in one shot. So starting with red, go to the right-hand slider, hit the Alt key, and then select, and the whole image turns black. And as I slide it down, it'll start showing pixels that start saturating. And so you can see those are the brightest pixels in the color red, and those are the ones that saturate first. Eventually they all saturate, but I'm just going to adjust it so just a few of them just start saturating, which means I'm using the color the most. I would do the same thing from the bottom, but in this case you can see the red goes all the way to 0. So let's move on to green. We'll do the same thing in green. And in the case of green, there are no pixels that have no green. So I'm just going to bring it down so that it makes this, in order to saturate the colors, just bring it down so some green pixels are at 0. And then do the same thing for blue. You can start from either direction, it doesn't matter. And then once I do this, oftentimes the red is a little bit off, especially when you look at the background, and you can adjust that by doing the center slider, moving it up or down, which, moving up takes red out, moving it down puts red in. But in this case, it was okay, so I'm going to put it back to 1. And that's that's done with levels. But the problem is that the center of the fish is still a little bit too dark. So the next thing I'll do is adjust lighting and highlights and shadows. And its default is a little bit too much, so I'm going to bring that down. Now in some cases the highlights are too bright, and you can darken them with this slider, but in this case we don't have to do that. So just get at this point where we're just happy with the color, and basically now I'm done with this picture. And going back to the original version, you can see there's a significant improvement in both the color temperature, the colors popping, and the fog level. And it's a fairly simple change, but unfortunately it's a reasonably manual change. You got to do it picture by picture. So I hope this helps.